with Intention, podcast where we bring you stories from around the globe. Hello and welcome to another episode on Rise and Thrive Mornings with Intention. And today I have a beautiful guest with me, Cindy Edington. Welcome, dear. How are you today?
Fantastic. Thank you for having me today.
You're welcome. I'm so glad you're here. And please tell us a little bit about yourself and where are you from, my dear?
So let's start off with, so I'm actually from Fairport, New York in the USA. So most people, when I say New York, they think, well, all the way in New York City, but I'm actually all the way over on the western end of the state. They would consider us the country bumpkin. So Fairport, New York, I live close by to Ontario Lake. So actually not too far away from Canada, just a few hours drive. So that's where I live. I'm actually the owner of Tranquil Heart Wellness. That's my business. And I'm a transformational life coach, a certified yoga therapist, a Reiki Master Teacher, EFT practitioner, and I'm also an author and speaker.
Wow,
I, yeah,
that's amazing.
lots
So
of
many
stuff, lots of hats.
Awesome. That sounds so amazing. Sorry, continue.
No, yeah, go for it. Yeah, I'm just saying, that's kind of what I do. But who I am as a person is really a heart-centered, very caring, loving person that wants to. I specialize with helping women, help them rise up to their full empowered state.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I'm so glad you're here today. So we'll get into some of the questions more in depth of what you do. So your career span actually is impressive, 44 years in preventative medicine and wellness. So what inspired you to transition from clinical research to founding Tranquil Heart Wellness?
Such a great question, and thank you for asking that.
You're welcome.
Well, yes, it's so interestingly enough, my passion work actually started probably 25 years ago. So I went through a really heartbreaking divorce again many years ago. And when that happened, I was kind of left with a lot of debt, and I had a very young child at the time. And so I needed to get very resourceful. And so one of the things that I did to bring in a little bit more funding was I leveraged what I was doing at the gym into a certification and became a fitness instructor. And what that did for me was give me some extra money, but it also then gave me a space where I could de-stress, so to speak. So it was a win-win-win type of situation for me. So that started. It all started with actually being a fitness instructor, and then over those years. Uh, it turned into coaching, yoga. Yoga came into my life. That was a real pivotal moment for me. It was a big aha moment, just learning a little bit more about myself at that time. But it literally was on the sideline. So I really started it for a very long time on the side. Now, I didn't have the courage back then to jump into it full time because I was a single mom. And so I had the full-time day job, which, gave me the money that I needed to support myself and my child, and just kind of puddled along. And I'd have to say, probably it was the end of 2019 is when I finally decided, after many, many years, I turned 60 that year. And I was like, if not now, when? My daughter's grown, she's married, I have two beautiful grandchildren as well. And my now husband, who I've been with many years, said, what are you waiting for? You want to be doing all of this stuff full time, just jump in. And so that he was the impetus. Although, like I said, I had been for the past 25 years doing this as a sideline thing, and it was just my passion work. And so, hence why I basically jumped in with both feet. Now it's been how many years? Quite a few, right? 5 years now we are into it. And I'm loving every moment of it. It's exactly where I wanted to be. And I'm so happy. I think the message there is for anybody out there that thinks like they can't start anything at like in their 60s, trust me, you can. And it's been great.
Wow, amazing. So tell me, I'm curious, you've worked in diverse fields and one of them infectious disease and oncology. How has that experience shaped your approach to wellness coaching?
Oh, yeah. So again, preventative care, health and wellness have always been like right at the heart and center of who I am. I mean, I knew it at early age, in terms of like having a healthy body, etc. Being in infectious disease was and oncology, both of them passions for me as well, of like, how can we actually help people that are in, especially babies. The infectious disease was actually me working in vaccines and developing vaccines for young babies. And I will say that there was one that I worked on for many, many years. That we were actually able to eradicate a disease worldwide, and that's Haemophilus influenza B. And so that, it rolls right in, right, with the whole of like, how can we do something more preventative versus treatment? And it's not to say that I'm against treatment, but, I think where I'm at anyways, it's we look more at like, how can we treat a disease, so to speak, rather than what can we do to actually prevent it from happening. And so that rolls right into what I think and feel about my business as well. So I coach a lot of women that are in the aftermath of divorce. And so I bring that wellness with me. So part of what I have is actually a nice program for women. And what I pull into that is some of what I have in terms of yoga techniques. I pull in EFT. I use a lot of emotional freedom techniques so that you can actually move through some of what's happening to you in terms of the stress response within the body. So it kind of links together. So maybe not as much, in terms of the preventative disease, but just the whole health and wellness and prevention, and what can we do to prevent ourselves from being in a state, if you will, of fight or flight, and what we can do to bring that down so that we're not contributing to disease within the body. Hope that makes sense.
Oh, definitely. So as you help and guide people, women through the aftermath of divorce, what are the key steps would you say you would recommend for rebuilding confidence and finding balance back again?
First and foremost, self-care. I mean, I know for myself, especially if you're alone and you've got children, it's so easy to like pull in all of your masculine energy, right? Because you're driven to like make sure that your child is taken care of. And so for me, it was like just losing part of the self-care, even though I was like teaching some classes here and there with yoga or fitness, whatnot, not quite the same as full self-care, and just realizing that, you have to, I look at it this way. We're big wells, right? And I'm an empathic person as well. So it's like giving out all the cups of water to everybody around me. When you do that, you deplete yourself. And when you get to that point, you can burn out. And so you really need to really appreciate yourself, love yourself, and do a lot of self-care to nurture yourself, because that's when you're going to actually have more to give. And so I think, to me, that's one of the key things that you need to keep in mind is self-care. I know a lot of women say, "Oh, am I being selfish?" That's such, to me, selfish is such a dirty word, right? I mean, because we need to put ourselves first. Yes, doesn't mean that it's a negative thing to do that, but I think that there's this stigma with that word, and I think we need to get away from that.
Yeah,
So that's one. I think that's the key one.
yeah,
There's many other things that you can do, but I think key first, you got to take care of yourself.
yeah. And I think, you know, even from my own experience, I feel like sometimes we don't know ourselves as well as we should. Um, a lot of times we like up until a certain point in life, you get influenced by everything that's around you. Then all of a sudden, what happened to me is like you kind of put your brakes on. It's like, wait a minute, why am I following this again? Or what are my true values? And instead of going and following like the rest of the, you know, sheep, I myself said, no, let me see who I truly am. Because am I doing something because I've been told to, or is it my free will? Like, so I think it's important sometimes, even if things are going well in your life, and to stop and it's like, look, like do like a check on yourself. It's like, is whatever I'm doing in life really in line with what I truly want? Maybe in the relationships you're, not where you want to be, but in business you're thriving. So, it's a chance to kind of look at different areas of your life and kind of like, hey, can't I take this to the next level? and can I do better? Because a lot of us we get comfortable where we are. So I personally am addicted to personal development now.
Yes.
Um, and I'm happy. But that doesn't
Mhm.
mean I'm not gonna push myself to go after more in life. And that's not being selfish. That's just being open-minded to all the possibilities that are out there. You know, that's why I love that you're dipping into a lot of different and mastering different areas like Reiki, yoga, helping women. I think it's so beautiful. And you can help people on so many different levels, and I absolutely love that. So I think, knowing yourself, where you stand is really important.
I couldn't agree with you more. And again, I think that a lot of women, when they first go through the divorce, though, especially for me, again, if mine was blindsided, I didn't see it coming. It might be different if the woman is actually choosing that. I wholeheartedly agree with you. Inner work is so huge. I think though, initially though, to like actually see that you need the inner work can be a difficult barrier to cross as well. And so that's why I always say that the self-care, I think, needs to come first, but you're absolutely spot on. Inner work is huge. Part of my journey was, again, yoga was the big aha for me because I realized how much, as you're saying, the messages that we receive, I talk about that a lot as well, is that, I was getting all of my validation from external sources. And so that was something that brought me more insight, as you say, to take a look at myself and say, oh, I don't need to seek outside for that validation. I need to come inside and do some inner work. And that too was there for me. Again, the whole coaching experience, getting into that program many, many years ago, and yoga was that lead in of understanding myself more, as you saying, understanding what are my values, what are my needs, how am I going to improve myself in a way that is fulfilling to me. And so I think that's huge. The other thing, though, I caution is that sometimes we can get tripped up even a little bit with that. And one of the things that came to light for me, Eva, was perfectionism. Because when I was going through this whole experience, some of the old messaging that's handed down, I talk a lot about this with clients as well, is that as women, we receive so many messages, right? From, again, moms and dads, it comes down generationally, but then it's also societal, cultural, industry. What are the ways that we are trained or programmed, if you will, to behave? Like what's acceptable for a woman to say and do? And so that you have to take a look at like what's underneath it, because a lot of limiting beliefs can come up and that we're not even really aware of them, right? They're sneaky because it's been programmed in. So we think this is just the way it is. One of the big things for me that came up during my journey was perfectionism. And that simply came from a message that, my dad said. He was like, well, what did you do wrong? I came home when all of this stuff was going on between me and my ex, but that hit me to my core because then it was like, oh, and then the big limiting belief was I must need to be perfect in order to be loved. And that took some time to like literally see that and recognize, oh my gosh, that is such a limiting belief. But at the time, it was so much other emotional turmoil going on. It was so easy to lock into those, messages that were handed down and those limiting beliefs. And it took a lot of work. Like I said, yoga was one of them to really open up to recognize what was going on. And as you're saying, doing the inner work, the personal development is so huge.
Yeah. And what I see a lot too with some of my clients too, like sometimes you can't do it all at once. Sometimes you have to keep peeling the layers until you hopefully get to the not the perfection, but just where you want to. Because I sometimes I have this, oh wow, I reached that milestone, and you think that but it's never it. You can always go and peel another layer and another, because sometimes, like you said, there's things you don't even know they're still there until you get that little poke or something. It's like, oh, well, thank you for that nudge. I didn't know that was still hanging in there, but it gives you a chance to clean up, look at your beliefs again, values, and take you to the next level. So things happen. Like sometimes when my daughter, she'll do something and it'll might upset me. I'm like, oh, and then I'm like, wow, I just acted like when I was in the child in the reverse position, right? I'm like, oh, and it gives me that awareness. I'm like, ooh, thank you so much. I'm not gonna do that again, or I'll think twice before reacting the way somebody else did to me back when I was little, right? So you get that, and it's like, okay, a little bit more work to do, and you have to give yourself grace and time, and everything comes in divine timing.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. You're so right. It is peeling back the layers. I look at it like the onion, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Sometimes it's going to make us cry, right?
yeah,
So it is so true. And this takes time, right?
yeah.
This takes time. We evolve stages and stages. And you're right, it can be very overwhelming. That's why a lot of what I focus in on my practice is, how do I regulate my emotions so that I can actually see more clearly? Because again, from that physiological perspective, right? When we're in fight or flight, the blood rushes away from we'll get kind of sciencey here a little bit, our prefrontal cortex, that rational thinking portion of the brain, and it gets ready, it runs to our extremities, right? We're getting ready to either fight or run or, petrified and freeze. And so when that happens, it's very difficult to see very clearly of what's going on in front of you. And so it's that slow process. Again, having gone through that whole journey and traveling through, many years, that's part of my mission is to help other women having gone through it to see that, yes, you're going to have these moments, but I'm here to help you get through it a little bit faster and with greater ease, because I didn't have any of that in the past, right? I mean, we're going back a couple decades now. We didn't
Yeah.
have the social media. We didn't have, as much connection and support and community that we can right now. That doesn't mean that some women are out there saying, yeah, I've got all this community. They may not. But it's there's a little bit more available to I think women at this point to create a little bit easier time and hopefully make it less painful and not as long. Of course, it's all individual, but
And there's definitely a lot of resources. And back in the day when I started personal development, or even before that, I used to want something and work at it, and all of a sudden it didn't come. And it's like watching the scale in the car when you rev the engine, it's like, ooh, it's not going up, and you crash. And I was like, oh man, it's not working. You try again, it's not working. And I never knew, like, because for the most part, it's like, you do it now, you have to do it now. And if it doesn't work, you're a failure. Well, that's where that perfectionist comes in, where you don't have to do it right away. It's the little steps towards it that are gonna, because what used to happen, I'll try, fail, I give up, right? But now
yeah.
it's like even Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about it every day. Take that step, no matter how small it is, and you build those blocks, and eventually your brain, because it's all in our mind, will get used to it. You train yourself. So instead of going up, failing, going up, you do it little by little and you get there. And I'm like,
Well,
wow,
to
I
tag
can
on to
do
that,
that.
is to celebrate them, right?
Sorry?
I'm going to tag on to what you just said, and that is, you're right, taking those little steps, but celebrating them too, because
Yeah,
so many of us don't celebrate until we get to the end, and
yeah,
then it's almost anticlimactic. It's like, oh, ho hum. It's you really like energizing yourself by celebrating every tiny step, and that creates that momentum, right? It
yes,
feels good, and it creates, as you say, it retrains your brain. It
yeah,
actually retrains your brain in a
yeah.
way that's really positive and keeps that going for you.
Yeah, and like and that's exactly it. And I never realized that too, because I would do something, get something done, and boom, next on to the next one. And I myself in the past never celebrated myself on my accomplishments. I was like, oh yeah, next on the, take that time, celebrate it. It's really important because you're now feeding your brain to, because it's easy to pick up a phone and scroll, and your brain feels, hey, I don't have to do any work, I'm just watching it. But when you get yourself accustomed to doing a little step, that's your new achievement. That should be your new brand new habit, making you feel great. That's what you should focus on. Those little steps, celebrate them, move to the next one. Achieve that little step, celebrate. I'm not talking here going spending hundreds of dollars or something, unless you have the money and want to do it, of course, but celebrate yourself, however you want, bubble bath, I don't know, chocolate croissant, whatever, you don't have to do big unless you have the money and way to do it. But otherwise, just do something else that's within your budget or something, but it makes you feel special and accomplished without, giving too much power to the ego, of course. You still want to maintain that and, that's really important. Yeah, that's
Oh
really,
yeah,
I didn't
if
think about it.
you're taking me back to my whole journey because I was taught too again, be very frugal, don't spend money on myself. These were just again the messages that were handed down by watching how my mom, what she did, and so part of what I did that this is gonna, again, this was just one little thing that I would do, but I had this wine cabinet, I had that you would hold glasses and whatnot. And so part of what I did, just a little something special, is I would go either once a week or once every other week. And I used to go to the store called Pier One. I don't know if there's any
Oh,
more of
I
them.
love that store.
Yeah, right. So I would go to Pier One and I would buy one wine glass, just one, not the set or anything, but just one because it was only like $3. Or it was $2, or I think the most expensive one that I was like $5. But I would go and buy something that just it was very special, and I still have them. They're all unique. Nothing is a match set, and so, but that was just one way that I could go in and just kind of like fill my soul in a creative kind of way. Not a lot of money, but it was a little way of me to like celebrate me. And it's small, but it meant so much to me because it was, again, breaking out of the old paradigm. Who
Yes.
do I want to be? Breaking away from all of those old messages that were really, again, as I say, limiting beliefs that were holding me back from being the full empowered person that, I wanted to be. And I still, again, as you say, it's a I'm still a work in progress. Even after all these years, there's always one more step we can take.
Yeah.
But we just learn to be more, I think, comfortable and confident within ourselves the more that we do that. And we show up differently. We show up differently. Yes, we're going to still have things that are going to trip us up, but it's not going to be like taking us all the way back down to the hole. We have tools, built a bevy of tools that it'll be a blip. Maybe we'll take two steps back. Okay, but we're going to come back quicker, right?
Yeah,
Because it's
exactly.
all a process, right? It's a
Yeah.
process.
You move through things so much faster because you understand how your mind works, how your body works. You're beginning to, in some cases, scratch the surface, but once you see the ease and flow it gives to your life, things just become so much easier. I used to be that kid that somebody was, do or say something, and it would like take me up for hours. Now it's like, okay, cool. Like you stay in that for a second or two or whatever, and you're done with it. Like it's even Joe Dispenza, somebody asked him, well, don't you ever get ticked off or this and that? He's like, yeah, sure, every day. He's like, really? It's like, yeah. Well, how long do you stay in that thing? Oh, that's the thing that's really important. You don't dwell on, you don't stay in it. Yeah, he's like, I get over it like that now. And that's the key, right? Get over it as soon as you can. Don't dwell on it forever. And I know I used to do that back in the day. I was like,
Yeah.
oh my God, it would bug me for days, sometimes months.
Right?
Depends what it was. Now it's like,
Yeah.
get through it, meditate on it, maybe do yoga, Reiki, whatever. There's so many tools out there.
Yeah.
Get over it as soon as you can. Move out of that energy you don't want to be into an energy you truly want to be in. Yeah.
Totally agree. Yeah, like I said, I use EFT quite a bit when it comes to that because I mean, just tapping on an acupressure point, and I think especially too for women who are not used to giving themselves compassion, right? So it's the whole I should have done this, I should have done that. A lot of times we like flip things around and we take that all onto ourselves. Even if somebody triggers us, then it's somehow we're taking that on, and so that's where again just. Giving yourself, and verbally. I think you can use a lot of these different tools as well, but reframing your language. And I think that's a
Yeah.
big piece of it too, is like, how are you talking to yourself? Right? If we're shooting all the time on ourselves, we're sitting in a big pile of shoulds, kind of stinky being there, just saying, it's like, how can we give ourselves some compassion to like move through that? As you say, it's letting go of what maybe somebody else said and triggered us, but it's also, I think, giving ourselves permission, as you said earlier, grace. I love that word as well. That self-compassion, that self-love, that grace to say, okay, Yeah, okay, maybe I made a mistake. It's okay.
It's
What did I
okay.
learn from that? Like,
Yeah,
what did I learn from that? I think that's the other thing too, is looking for the gifts in any of our situations that have happened to us. Again, for me, the divorce, it's like it was a heartbreaking event, but I look at it as a heart opening event, right? Because it's like, what did I learn from that? What were the gifts that came out of that? And gratitude. I practice gratitude, forgiveness, compassion. I think those were the three biggies that came out of it that I learned even more in depth of like what those things could do for me as an individual to become more empowered and more confident and courageous, and really shine my own light.
that's right. I want to go back a little bit to the EFT because you are certified in that. What are the benefits for stress management and emotional healing using EFT? Can you go a little bit more in depth for those that may not know what it is about?
Yeah, absolutely. So the emotional freedom technique, it's actually a clinically proven technique used to, again, shift you out of the stress response. So if you're not familiar with the stress response, they call it the fight or flight or freeze response. And typically that happens when we get triggered by something. So there's been a lot of clinical studies it's used a lot for PTSD, vets that come home from the war. It's actually used in America, I hate to say this, but for a lot of the survivors from a lot of these mass shootings that have happened, and those are like these big T traumas, but it can also be used for what I like to call little T traumas. So again, whenever you're having a triggered moment, you can tune into your body. And this is where I combine the yoga and the EFT together. You can tune into your body, right? So when you're feeling anxious, so let's talk about anxious energy. You can feel it in your body. You have to notice, do I feel like a knot in my solar plexus? Maybe it feels like a gut punch. Maybe your throat starts to close, like I have to have a hard conversation with somebody and we feel, nervous about that. That nervous energy can be transmuted, and take that energy back into a very grounded place. So I like to use EFT. Basically what you're doing is you're tapping on various acupressure points, specific acupressure points in the body, okay? And at the same time, verbalizing what you're thinking and feeling. And so I use a lot of that, to bring you back into a very grounded place. I also do a lot of guided meditation and breath work. So when clients are like, oh my gosh, this is what's going on in my life, I'll be like, okay, let's talk about it. And then we'll do an EFT session and do a lot of breathing and grounding. When we do that, we shift from what's called the sympathetic nervous system into the parasympathetic nervous system. So again, it shifts you into, again, a more grounded, calm sense of being. And when that happens, right, again, we have more clarity. We can see things more clearly because when we're triggered and we're highly emotional, we're going to react and we're going to go on autopilots. Whatever messages were handed down, we're just going to go on autopilot. As you said, here I am talking to my daughter and like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I'm acting the way it was, however it was spoken to me as a child. The more you can see that awareness first, look and see, oh my God, what am I doing? Then we can take action. How do I want to address that? And so this is just a tool that I use. It's a wonderful tool in the tool belt, so to speak, that can help you regulate your emotions. Because I think the more that you can do that, again, that's where we can come back into our center. And speaking it out loud is huge because a lot of, you can tap it. If you're talking in your head, this is a way, both of these things together, actually verbalizing it allows that energy to actually be released out of your body.
Exactly. Wow. That's why I wanted you to go in a little bit more in depth so our listeners can get to know it a little bit better because I ask people, some people don't even know about this technique. So another topic I want to talk about is we are both international best-selling authors and we both contribute to a magazine monthly. Please tell us about your books, where we can find them, and why did you decide to write a chapter or a book?
Fantastic. Well, thank you for asking. So you can see in my background here, the two books that I'm actually in. Soul of the Diamond is the first book. And then the second book is I'm So Glad You Left Me. I never thought I'd be writing a book. Never in a million years did I even imagine that. But I joined this beautiful community, Facebook community with Sinette Van Breda, who is the main author of Soul of a Diamond. Just a beautiful human being. Her whole mission is self-love, and I really resonated with that, came into the fold with her. And she just wanted to know my story. And I was actually a little bit afraid to tell my story because, you know, this happens a long time ago. I am like so healed from it, but I didn't want it to impact my daughter in a negative fashion, because she doesn't know the whole history. And I don't go into all the gory details that I didn't need to, but it was really important for me. And she encouraged me to tell my story because other women have, again, experienced this as well. And what I did to actually move through it. So again, just the messages of the, my journey and the things, the ahas that happened along the way and the tools that I use. And like I said, just learning so much about gratitude and forgiveness and compassion, and how many women out there need to hear that, and that they might have a similar story and how that might help them. And so she really encouraged me to submit a chapter, and I'm so grateful that I did, because I really do believe that the more we can tell our stories, the more that other women can relate, and whether it's exactly the same, the scenario, the details may be different, but the feelings and what you're processing are very similar or the same. And so if I can contribute to some other woman's, growth and help them through a really hard time, then I'm all for it. So I'm so proud to be a part of that. And then the second book was just, again, being in this group, another woman wanted to tag on to that and take my story. And it gets a little bit, I don't want to say grittier, but it hones in on a couple of specific, really detailed items of, some of the heartbreak, so that, again, people understand, I went through a really, really hard time. I had no money. There were times when I had, excuse me, I only had $10 to my name to last from week to week after I paid for all the bills and made sure that my daughter was taken care of. And, I literally survived on carrots and apples and yogurt for a time. And I was too proud to ask for help from my parents. And because, again, I was taught that pull yourself up by your bootstraps, be strong, don't be vulnerable. And so I think it's really important to tell these stories and let other women know that I've been there. And if you're there, you're not alone. And that if you need support, I'm happy to support you in any way that I possibly can. But I'm very proud of both of these. Again, my first toe in the water in terms of being an author, and who would have thought that we're international #1 bestsellers. And so I'm very proud of those achievements.
Wow, that's amazing. Congratulations on
Thank
that.
you.
And yes, it is so amazing to be a part of a community that has so much to offer, and sharing, and spreading so much light into the world. I love Sane, and I love being part of the community as well. And it's just been an amazing experience. Yeah.
Yeah, she just keeps opening up more doors, right? I think we were talking a little bit earlier on, also being a Mrs. Potts. You're going to be doing, it sounds like, something like that in the future as well. I've been doing it for almost a year now, and it's been fabulous. And again, it's just a community of being able to offer a safe space for women to just have a good conversation, no judgment, and have that community. And so I think that you'll really enjoy, I think, being a part of the Mrs. Potts community as well.
I know I will. It's definitely gonna be something new, but I love it. I love a new challenge, though it's not really a challenge. It's just shining brighter in other areas and with another community, and spreading the love. Um, so I can't wait to see what it brings. So I believe it's coming up in January, but if you follow us and subscribe to our channels and Facebook profiles, you'll be in the knowing. And if you have any questions, or anybody who's listening, please reach out to us. We're here for you, to help you on your journey to a better, more fulfilling life. So in the podcast name is Rise and Thrive Mornings with Intention. What does it mean to you to rise and thrive, and how can women embrace intention in their wellness journey?
Are you talking to me?
Yes. Sorry.
That's okay. I thought that was your plug and I think it's fantastic. What do I think? Yes, my intention for rising and thriving, just be yourself, be your authentic self. Wherever you are, it's okay. Just know that you're okay. Set the intention to take a step. One little baby step is all you need to do is take one baby step every single day. And slowly but surely, you're going to get to where you want to go. And when you get there, you're going to say, I want to even go further. So I would say that that's the intention and rise up every day, smile on your face. You're here, be kind to yourself and kind to others, but be kind to yourself.
Exactly. I love that. I absolutely love that. So thank you so much, Cindy, for being on my podcast. It was lovely to have you here. And thank you. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in today. And please follow us and subscribe so you don't miss upcoming episodes. Thank you, everyone. Have a beautiful day.
Thank you.